Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Board of Supervisors met in closed session and discussed agenda item number 2 in closed session regarding conference with labor negotiators. At this time, the board took no reportable action. The closed session is still ongoing and may continue into this afternoon. The board did not discuss any other agenda item on the closed session. Those will be discussed again this afternoon. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Council. So we'll move on our agenda to item C, presentations and recognitions. The first presentation is the Board of Supervisors is to present a proclamation to the REACH, R-E-A-C-H, San Benito Foundation acknowledging Jim Ostick. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the proclamation acknowledging Jim Ostick and REACH San Benito County, San Benito Foundation.
Second.
Okay, the motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Is there someone here to accept this recognition?
I think Valerie Eglin.
Come on forward.
Hi, Valerie.
Hi. Thank
Anyway.
you. It's Anita King.
Anita Kane. And up here with Valerie Eglin is Anita Kane. And it's really a pleasure to present this proclamation to REACH and Jim Ostick. And for those who don't know what the acronym stands for, REACH, it's for Recreation, Exercise, and Community Health San Benito Foundation. And Jim Ostick, who is not here today, is walking across the country to bring recognition to San Benito County and its parks and recreation programs, and to REACH and raise money for it in that effort, which is absolutely phenomenal. Most of us don't want to park 2 blocks away from where we want to walk into a store, and this man's walking across the country to raise money for us. And it really is a pleasure bringing him the recognition he deserves and the community spirit that he's sharing across the entire United States. So I'll read a couple of the whereases, and then I'll turn the mic over to our guests. Anyway, whereas REACH San Benito Foundation was founded in 2012 as a nonprofit organization to raise funds and advocate for improvements to our parks and recreation facilities, programs, and services benefiting our community, with the vision ensuring healthy living in San Benito County through parks and recreation. Whereas Jim Ostick is taking it upon himself, with the support of REACH San Benito Foundation, to walk from the Atlantic Ocean on the shores of from the shores of the Delaware to Point Reyes National Seashore, California, and is now, as of July 2016, has walked into Colorado, half completing the whole of his trek, which seems like Colorado is a lot further than that. But we'll be it therefore resolved that San Benito County Board of Supervisors does hereby recognize Jim Ostick for his heroic efforts towards building the Recreation, Exercise, Community Health San Benito Foundation endowment funds that will assist in maintaining and supporting our San Benito County parks, facilities, and recreation programs for succeeding generations to come. Congratulations, Valerie.
Yes. Anita is going to unfold a map that shows Delaware to Point Reyes. So Jim right now is right there in Utah. So he's in Duchesne, I think it's called. Duchesne, right? So he has this last leg of the journey to go. So he's very excited to be more than halfway. He's getting some support by communities and groups along the way, coming across the Discovery Trail, because this is really a nasty area he's coming through now. It's so hot. And he's pushing this stroller, right? And it's got his camping gear in it. And so whenever possible, he camps, and otherwise he begs housing here and there, or we can find him a hotel room. It's not been exactly the easiest thing. I think when he was younger, he felt a lot stronger, and that, his memory was there when he planned the trip. So, right now he's approaching 65, and his feet are sore, and it's just inspirational to see somebody keep trucking, to walk 19 miles a day. He figures at this point, considering days off, but the days that he has been walking, that it has averaged 19 miles a day. So I'd get there in a week, 19 miles. Thank you very much, Board of Supervisors, for acknowledging this community event, I would call it, that promotes health in San Benito County. And there is a website, Reach Across America, that you can look at his daily blogs and be in the adventure with him. And that is really fun because he describes his day, he posts pictures of his environment and the people he meets, and especially the waitresses. So it's quite entertaining, and he would love to see some likes on his blogs. He is inspired by those of us who follow him and acknowledge the fact that his efforts are not in vain. So thank you very much.
Valerie, before you sit down, will you please, after Jim has completed this trek and has sufficient time to recover, bring him to one of our meetings so that we can publicly thank him? Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on, we have three, looks like proclamations. We'll take them all under one motion. The first is to present a proclamation to the San Benito Health Foundation declaring August 7th through the 13th, 2016 as Health Center Week. The second, August 2016 as Breastfeeding Awareness Month. And August 11th, 2016 as National Farm Worker Day in San Benito County.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. So moving, is there somebody here to accept the proclamation for the San Benito Health Foundation? Okay, and that is Supervisor Jaime de la Cruz.
Good, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the board acknowledging the week for healthcare center. I'm going to read a couple whereas, and then I'll let you guys, speak to the public. Whereas for 50 years, community health centers have provided high quality, cost effective, and accessible primary and preventive care to all individuals, regardless of insurance status or ability to pay. And whereas health centers serve as a health care home for over 24 million Americans through more than 9,000 delivery sites across the nation. 1 in every 14 people living in the United States looks to a community health care center for their care. And whereas the health care centers remain committed to preserving and expanding access in the communities they serve, ensuring that the promise of coverage is translated into the reality of care. Now, therefore, before it be resolved that the state of California, County of San Benito, do hereby proclaim August 7th through 13th, 2016 as National Health Care Week. Congratulations.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Christina. I'm one of the health educators at San Benito Health Foundation, and I just wanted to thank the board for acknowledging this proclamation. August 11th, this Thursday, will be our event. We'll be celebrating that the clinic has been open for over 40 years. We'll be having our breastfeeding walk from 12 to 2. Promoting that women continue breastfeeding and observing our National Farm Worker Health Day. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Supervisor Jerry Munzer, which will be presenting the Breastfeeding Awareness Month. Is there someone here to accept this proclamation?
All right. So this is a proclamation declaring, I'll tell you which month is it? It is August. August, the Breastfeeding Awareness Month in San Benito County. Whereas all available knowledge indicate that human milk ultimately enhances the growth, development, and well-being of the infant by providing the best possible nutrient and protecting against serious health conditions. And whereas the professionals at San Benito Health Foundation, WIC program, promote breastfeeding education and resources to all families of the San Benito County and their employers, such as lactation accommodation laws requiring employers to provide their breastfeeding employees both the time and a private space in which to either nurse their infants or to express breast milk for their benefit. And now, therefore, be it resolved that San Benito County Board of Supervisors does hereby proclaim August 2016 as Breastfeeding Awareness Month in the County of San Benito, California, in order to actively promote breastfeeding as the optimum and preferred method of infant feeding as our community cultural norm.
Thank you.
Okay, is there someone here for the National Farm Worker Day? Oh, all right.
Morning, thank you.
So as chair, I did the selfish thing. Usually I'll give all of these certificates to my colleagues, but I picked this one in particular, National Farm Worker Day, because as a supervisor, I'm very proud to recognize this day. You know, I was raised in South San Benito County in attractive migrant farm worker housing for the first 8 years of my life. I was raised by my grandparents, my grandfather, Servando Flores, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and my mom. She was a single parent. And my grandfather, he migrated here from Mexico in the 50s, and he came here for opportunity to provide for his family. And he came to San Benito County. He lost his battle to cancer in 2011, and he had told me that he was very proud, but he was shocked. He never imagined when he came here in the 50s that his grandson or any one of his family members would ever be elected in a county where he faced racism, where he faced these deplorable working conditions. And so I'm here because I'm very proud to recognize National Farm Worker Day and to proclaim this day as a member of the Board of Supervisors as National Farm Worker Day here in the state of California and in the county of San Benito. So thank you.
Thank you.
So moving on, Mr. Clerk, public comment. This is the opportunity to address this board on items of interest not appearing on the agenda. No action may be taken unless it is provided by Government Code Section 54954.2. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, Rebecca Salinas from the Friends of the Library.
Yes, my name is Rebecca Salinas. I am treasurer of the Friends of the Library of San Benito County. Very proud to be part of that group. We thought that this would be a good time to make you aware of some of the activities that have taken place recently. We had a summer reading program where we served over 200 children. In that little place, we served 200 children. They had art activities having to do with science and math, and the children set a list of books that they had to read during the summer. And we are very thankful that the Union Bank gave us $500 to help us with the expenses. Every child receives a free book, and they have other goodies when they come to participate in the program. And our mission is to advocate for the library and to support it any way we can. So Now that we have a self-check machine, thanks to the goodness of the San Benito Community Foundation, we got $20,000 from a grant that we wrote from them. We can serve more people. We're getting, more services out to folks because of that. I also wanted to mention that, when we got the self-check, we had to cull the books because there were a lot of books that were water damaged, obsolete. So all of those books we had to dump, and we have to buy new books to replace those. By the way, I heard something on the radio the other day on PBS that children who read books, the actual physical books, retain more than if you read it on the screen. I thought that was really interesting because I thought, what happens to our books? But anyway, that was really interesting. So we had to replace those books. And with the money that we got, we wrote a grant to the city of Hollister. Thank goodness, we got $10,000. So that helped us to replace those books that we had to dump. So that's happening. And then I wanted to mention one lady, an unsung hero of our group, Mary Schneider. Mary is a person who looks at all the books that we get donated. We have a bin in the library, by the way, in the right as you come in, the lobby, where you can donate used books. And so Mary goes through those books. What the library can't use on their shelves, she takes those books and she carts them up to San Francisco after she's trained people to appraise them to see if they're even worth selling. Can you imagine the hours she puts in? Mary, stand up. Oh, yeah. And then she carts them up to San Francisco where she can get a good price for them. So all that money comes back. So I think that, our group is doing a lot of service to the community because we believe that literacy is the key. If you have a literate, informed community, then you will have a good democratic process in this county. Thank you very much.
Marcy Houston.
Hello, my name's Marcy Houston. You just heard a whole bunch of good stuff. So now we got to get to the bad stuff. Somebody's got to pop the balloon, right? So, I'm here back again talking about the homeless problem around my company, which is the Garden Mart. And I actually have customers in here. It's a sweet little family place, clean. I've done the best I can to try to work with you guys, and I keep getting ignored. And I'm flabbergasted. On July 20th, Mr. Rivas got an email to get me the intergovernmental committee meeting so we can bring city and county together. I never got a response. So I'm having to deal with city, with sheriff, with the cops, with the DA, which I told you all this before. Problem is, everybody's blaming everybody else. Even yesterday, he's blaming the cops. We can't do anything. He's blaming the cops. Cops blame the sheriff blames the DA. County blames the cops, and it all ends with Steve Sanders. So I thought, might as well call the judge. Call the judge, Steve. And you know what? We played phone tag 4 times. This guy really wanted to talk to me. Unlike you, Mr. Rivas, I called you and left a message, and you ignored me. Of all the people I called, you were the only one that didn't call me back. But I can get a Superior Court judge to call me back. Steve Sanders says, Marcy, you're talking to the right people. Get everybody together. I will sit in on a meeting. So I thought, okay, that's really cool. Get everybody together, then nobody can blame everybody else. It's easy to blame somebody when they're not there. So I send out an email to all the parties. I still get ignored. How do you think I feel now? Call Steve Sanders back. Hey, Steve. Judge Sanders, sorry. We're getting ignored. And he goes, you know what? Go in front of the Board of Supervisors. So here I am. I'm feeling that maybe you guys don't feel my pain. And I had promised you last time I was here that I was going to start telling you little stories. So I've got a good one. And then I have perhaps maybe I can figure out a way for you to feel my pain. We had a guy show up at my front gate where my customers walk in. And this guy had poop running down his pants. Can you imagine what he smelled like? This guy was at my front door, like pretend he was right there. And you know what he wanted? He wanted us to hose him off. So this is what I'm dealing with. Thank God I didn't have a customer. And so what I'm thinking is, I'm at my wit's end. And I'm thinking, I've got Mr. Rivas and Ignacio in the same little compartment because neither one of them, they are the chiefs of this town. And this town is going into a toilet, literally. So what do you think I should do? Because this is what my plan is. Jaime knows my plan. He knows my plan. My little plan is if you're not going to feel my pain by taking care of my problem, then my problem's going to come to you. And if you're not going to protect my private property and my private property rights, then you can deal with the same private property rights. If I need to spell that out, I will.
Ms. Houston.
Kathleen Maribel.
My name's Kathy Larabelle, and I'm a resident of San Benito County, and I taught at Rancho San Justo School for 25 years. I am a member of Friends of the Library, and I just want to speak a little bit about the library and what it offered just this summer. To begin with, the library was involved in the horse parade, which in San Benito County is a big deal. We were in it with the bookmobile, the Friends of the Library walked in it, and I saw kids that I knew that I had taught up and down the streets waving at the bookmobile, "Hello, Mr. Munoz," because they know him, and they were excited about it. The library also offered the summer reading program, and we did have over 200 students there. Kids that I recognized, kids that other teachers recognized, who were excited to be there. The library participated in Summer in the Park, where we signed up kids to get library cards. Again, students who maybe didn't have any books at home were now going to have the opportunity to come to the library and become more literate. Also, the library ran a teen program this summer where the teens created a video that's going to appear on the Chamber of Commerce website. And having gone to high school in this county and having a teenager myself, my son, grow up here, I know how little there is to do if you don't happen to be an athlete. So that was a great thing for the library to offer. I also wanted to talk about the bookmobile. It was my great pleasure to go out with the bookmobile one day of the 3 days that it went out during the week. We went to apartments on Hillcrest, the apartments across from Rancho San Justo School, and we also went to where the Hollister School District was having summer school. To see these little kids be so excited to come out, be able to get into the bookmobile, which they think is a huge thrill, and lay down on the ground and read their books, it is the most gratifying thing for a teacher to see. And I'm sure you're aware that research has proven that children lose 1 to 2 years in grade level ability in reading if they don't read in the summer. So we need to support this public library. We need to have our bookmobile, we need to have our library open, we need all those programs because our children that are growing up here deserve the same opportunity if they were growing up in Gilroy, if they were growing up in Morgan Hill, it doesn't matter. We're raising a generation and we need to support them. Thank you.
Susan Lowe.
Hi, Susan Logue, resident of Hollister, president of the Friends of the Library. Must be your lucky day. First, I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for your financial support with the library and keeping us running. We appreciate it very much. The library programs this summer, there was a summer reading program. Some people already mentioned we also fed the children. So I wanted to thank Nora, and she partnered with another group of people so that those children would get fed every day when they came to the library. The self-check machines with the Community Foundation have helped us provide reference librarian time. So before this time, it was very difficult for Nora to have a reference librarian always available because everyone was spending so much time checking books and checking with customers. So now it's a little bit more flexible. And then also, I wanted you to be informed we're starting a senior outreach for movies. So we've recently talked to some senior groups, and starting next month there will be senior movies at the library Thursdays. So we'll get that information out as soon as we have it written down. Next steps is what are we going to do for impact fees? Is the library going to be part of the impact fees that are going to be established for the new buildings that are going up here? The library needs increased physical space. We can provide teen tutoring, but we don't really have the square footage to do so. So I know that there's been some talk, the County Office of Ed might be able to help us out in some way. We still would like to pursue that. And then we understand there may be a library needs assessment discussed, and this would be August 23rd, and it may be a closed session. So the Friends of the Library would like to request that be an agendized item so that it would be transparent as to what the needs assessment was reasoned and conducted for. And then kind of in final, tie it all together, these are some of the things that the Friends help Nora and her staff do every day, and that is tutoring adults, working homework club, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 3:30 to 5:30, every Tuesday, Wednesday for free. Any elementary child can come in and get tutoring help for their homework. We also have the book appraisals, which Mary and Kathy and Sharon spent a lot of time doing that for us, and we couldn't operate the library really without that extended help. Fundraising, we do the grant writing and the champagne teas. We do education, summer reading program, which, by the way, this is my third year volunteering as a volunteer for the summer reading program, and we have the same families coming back, really enjoying themselves, and new families showing up. So it's been really fantastic to see those kids learning and enjoying themselves, too. And the parents are kind of like, whew, for a few hours, I don't have to worry. Thank you so much.
Mr. Richmond?
Oh, thank you. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Sorry about
Good morning, Marty Richmond from Hollister. I'd like to broach a new subject with you, and that is the roads. I had the unfortunate experience this weekend on Sunday of having to go to Scotts Valley for an appointment. I put an extra hour in my schedule to make sure I make it on Sunday, and guess what? I almost didn't make it. So it took me an extra 45 minutes over the regular travel time, which is just over an hour, to go to Scotts Valley. So it took me almost 2 hours. And then I said, well, thank God on the way back, all the traffic will be gone. And on the way back, when I got to Watsonville, they had some kind of a thing going on, an event, and whoever the traffic engineer was that tried to move the traffic around the event didn't know what they were doing, and they were in total gridlock over there. And when I finally got past Watsonville, I said, well, at least I'll get home now. And then I got to 101, and it was bumper to bumper in both directions as I crossed over at San Juan Grade. And then I finally got over here, and it was backed up so far for people trying to get on 101, backed up down past the traffic light at San Juan Bautista, that people were making a U-turn and going the other direction wherever. I don't know how they were going to get around. I don't know if they were going to go over the old Stagecoach Road or what they were going to do. That's just a regular old Sunday afternoon in California. So in their wisdom, our government, who asked us to spend $44 billion on a bullet train, has now got it up to almost $70 billion, and the roads are going nowhere. And I would ask you to write the governor and our representatives at the state legislature and say, you have to do something. You have to stop wasting these billions of dollars you do up there by all these committees and everything that do absolutely nothing, and take some of this money and do something with the highway system. We have, per mile, the most expensive highway system in the United States. The data is clear from the federal government. It costs us more to put it in, it costs us more to maintain it than any other state, and we have the worst roads and the least amount per capita. That's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous to have a state this size with this kind of budget where it takes Caltrans a century to build a damn road, okay? And when they do build it, it comes out to $1 billion a mile. It's nonsense. We're not running this system just to keep Caltrans in operation. And we're not running this system. The people who pay their taxes in this state deserve better. And they won't get any better until the people they elect, like the people sitting in front of me, will get off their butts and do something about it. If you don't complain, they're not going to do anything. Now, they may not do anything anyway, but at least you'll be on record as wanting to do something. Thank you for your time.
No further speaker cards.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. If there's anyone else wishing to address the board on any items not appearing on the agenda, now's the time to do so. Seeing none, we'll move on to department head announcements. Oh.
Absolutely.
Yeah. My name is Rob Lee. I'm president of the Hollister Art League, and I'd like to really extend support to the Friends of the Library and the library. The Hollister Art League shows our artwork at the library and at Mars Hill, and we appreciate their help in that way. The Friends of the Library and the library work together with other organizations, and it's fantastic to see that. I go to the library once a month, and it's great to see it full, to see the computers that are there for people who don't have computers at home so they can use, and the extended services that you're providing. So I want to just ask everyone's support for the library, and thank you for the support that you have done in the past, because I feel that it's needed. You could go to Anthony Robbins and you could attend one of his seminars and pay hundreds and thousands of dollars, but the information in the books in the library is the same information that you can get for free. Isn't that great?
Okay, anyone else wishing to provide some comments to the board? Now's the time to do so. All right, seeing none, move on to department heads now. Department head announcements, Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we do have an announcement out of administration. I've invited David Westrick, our Chief of Police for Hollister, up to give a quick announcement concerning the homeless issues in our area.
But contrary to what Ms. Houston may think, we actually have been working on it.
We've been working on it.
As Mr. CAO and I met about this issue.
Good morning, Chair and
Hey, Chief.
Ward. I'm sorry to walk slow. I have a little injury right now. Yes, we do have a homeless problem, and we have an issue with just our general capacity to deal with it. We have been working on this for several years. The chair and myself actually were actually on the Homeless Coalition together. Our problem as law enforcement is, if I can paint a picture, is that we're at the very tip of the pyramid, and we don't have much foundation to support that tip after that here. And that's all of our faults. The cities, the counties, it's everyone's faults. And we have to acknowledge that. And then we have to do something about it. If a police officer contacts indigent folk out there and they have a specific problem, we don't have very many ways to refer them to programs here. In fact, sometimes we actually refer them out of county. Again, I don't point the finger at anybody. It's something that we have to work on as a group to fix, and we have been working on it. I just think that we probably need to work faster. Obviously, it's difficult for me personally, as I've come from different jurisdictions that have had more robust programs, and we in our community here are very proud to live in this great community. It's safe, relatively crime-free, but we don't do everything. And I think that this is one of those things that we can do and be more efficient at. It's not a crime to be homeless. It's not a crime to be poor. It's not a crime to be a migrant. And I think that the tip of the spear probably shouldn't be law enforcement. It probably should be some sort of social services, some sort of outreach. There's a place for law enforcement when we need to solve problems. And we have homeless issues both in the city of Hollister and in the county. It's actually relatively even as far as folks out there that need our assistance and calls for service. But again, we have been working on it. The problem is that I don't think we're working fast enough. And we just have to build up our capacity here. And I think we need to endeavor to do that 360 degrees. Thank you.
And thanks for your comments, Chief.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for you. Chief, it's too bad that Ms. Houston left. She has a business to run. We all understand that, and I'm sure that's what she's tending to, but we are trying to work on the issue, the county, and I'm sure the city is as well. But specifically, what she's concerned about is people just hanging out on private property. And you're right, it's not a crime to be homeless or poor, but is it a crime to just loiter on private property by businesses that don't want that? I don't think I've ever been to a community that doesn't have homeless people, no matter if it's San Francisco, Santa Cruz, or in a community in the valley. This is not unique to San Mateo County or Hollister.
I'll answer that. It is a crime, and I don't think anyone in California has actually figured out how to fix it. It's a misdemeanor for trespassing. Therefore, you could probably write them a ticket, but because they're indigent, they have no ability to pay the ticket. Mm-hmm. And then you start this circle. We need to break that. We need to be proactive with our outreach and social services. I mean, there's folks out there that need mental health. They need medical help. They need a job. The last thing they need is a law enforcement officer to walk in and do what a law enforcement officer does. And I understand that we're many times the only thing to call, but I think we need to actually be there before that with these services. Thank you.
Thanks.
We also have another one out of administration, our Louis Valdez, our management analyst.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I actually visited Ms. Houston's location yesterday, and I did so at the behest of the CAO on behalf of the chair, and I walked that particular location. And there are logistically a couple of things that could be done to the north and south. There's additional fencing that could be put up, but the property to the south of Ms. Houston's business is private property, so we certainly cannot compel them to put up a fence. That would help with the loitering problem. Along the backside, Ms. Houston does not have her property fenced all the way up to the fence line. So if we were to do that and put additional fencing along the backside, that might also help people from moving in there. So we have responded on behalf of the board, and we have done that. But as I explained to Ms. Houston, this is really a multifaceted problem, and there has to be a service component to the intervention of these folks who are homeless. A lot of them are mentally ill. Some of them are veterans who may have PTSD. So that's not really the chief's responsibility necessarily. And I want to make really clear, I would never blame the police department or the chief of police in particular for anything like that, because it's too simplistic a way to approach this. So we did respond. I did put that information in an email to the CAO, and we can go from there.
And to keep in mind as well is that this location is within the city limits as well. Just for
Mr. Chair, I also visited Ms. Houston, and I did talk to her, and I did suggest some of those ideas, what you did, and I did say that sometimes our chairperson is real busy and will reach out, and just because he or she doesn't give you a personal phone call, he, in perfect example, will direct staff to make the appropriate connections or follow-ups. So I tried, and any response that I gave Ms. Houston, she was just not satisfied. She wanted the homeless members of the community to vacate outside her premises, which was, again, somebody else's property. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. CEO?
Yeah, we also have another announcement out of our county counsel's office. We have our assistant county counsel / ACAO, Barbara Thompson, here to give a quick announcement.
Multi-hats.
I just wanted to update the board that we are working on getting a revised draft marijuana ordinance back to the board. We're trying to get it back to the board either the second meeting in August or the first meeting in September. So we'll give you an update. If it's not on the August 23rd agenda, then we'll get it to you in September. So at least you can have a working draft of the revised ordinance.
And a last announcement we have out of our RMA department. We have Brent Barnes, our RMA director, here.
Good morning. Just to add to the Assistant CAO, Assistant County Counsel's remarks, we have probably a bad pun, a spike in marijuana grow houses that are popping up under hoop houses across the county. There are at least 10 active ones. They create odor issues, light issues. This is a dusk picture, not a very good one, I'm afraid, because of my printer. Very, very highly lit. It looks like a neon bulb, a giant neon bulb in the field. There are odor issues, as I said, lighting issues, trespassing issues. There are big electrical services that are going in very strange places. So we're getting 600 and 800 amp services to what are called tool sheds. So just be aware of that, and hopefully we'll deal with that when the ordinance comes back. But I just wanted to put a point on that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the RMA director while he's here. On a different note,
okay.
What's your timeline for that report on the pavement?
23rd of August.
23rd of August.
Yes,
perfect.
sir.
Thank you.
I have email from them this morning. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Brent.
That's all the announcements.
Okay, moving on to board announcements. Start to my left, Supervisor Dela Cruz.
I will refer my announcement under our NACO conference report, Mr. Chair.
Okay, very good. Supervisor Munzer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I attended the grand opening and ribbon cutting ceremony of Mudstone Ranch, the newest facility for Hollister Hills. It is a non-motorized, I believe, 18 miles of trails in which it horseback, mountain bike riding, and hiking will be utilized. And I presented a certificate of recognition on behalf of the board at the ceremony.
Very good.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Supervisor Munzer. Supervisor Batalla?
Nothing today.
No comments. And I don't have any comments. Maybe just an announcement. I would encourage any local residents who have an interest. I know that the Samuel High School passed a bond a couple years ago, Measure G. And I just want to invite members of the public to visit the new facilities on campus. The most important thing is a lot of the improvements you really can't see because they were made in the classroom. All of the classrooms have been updated with air conditioning and with technological improvements that are very necessary for our students. It's hard to believe the high school is very large, very old, and in the summertime, some of those rooms would get 90 over 90 degrees. And it was very uncomfortable for our students and for our teachers. But because of Measure G and those funds that were passed, all of the rooms now can accommodate all of our students. So I would encourage, I know that they're going to be having an open house later this week. I would encourage everybody to visit the high school and to contact the school to make those arrangements. So And the reason I make that is, yes, I'm an employee of the high school, but it's also in my district. And so we're working on some joint use stuff to have some of those facilities open to the public. And so that's something that I look forward to. And so moving on in our agenda, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there any item that any member of this board wish to pull?
Mr. Chair, can we pull on item number 18?
Item 18, Supervisor De La Cruz. Supervisor Munzer, any items?
20.
Supervisor Munzer? I mean, Mr. Patel? None? Okay. So at this time, I'll open up to the public if there are any items that wish to be pulled by any member of the public. None? Okay. So with that, I will accept a motion for all items on consent with the exceptions of 18 and 20.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. So take it back to item 18. Mr. De La Cruz.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Oops, I'm sorry. I'm trying to find number
So,
18.
in our budget process, the recommendation was to not fund the position. Now you're coming back to the board and ask for a half-time position.
No, not at all. Actually, we have asked for your approval of the class specification. There is not the funding for an allocation at this point in time. There may be some funds to allow temporary help in this classification, but we are not asking for an allocation. This is to approve the class spec.
Okay, so where's the money coming from?
There are already funds in County Council's budget for temporary assistance. So that comes in the form of any varying array of things that they need. We do have someone here who might be able to speak to that, but that's the reason. The funding isn't there for an allocated position, not that if that's found, it couldn't come forward in the future.
So I guess my
We
question...
have, I'm sorry, we do have funding both in the temporary help for front office staff, and also we have an allocation for the deputy county council that we haven't recruited, and I mean, we won't be able to fill that probably for at least 2 months, maybe 3 probably. So we do have the salary savings from that position as well.
Okay, so you're going to pull those dollars into a temporary position?
Yes. Not to exceed, either 20 or 28, not to exceed 28 hours per week. With the temporary help, they're not receiving any health benefits, any, retirement benefits, et cetera, and there's no expectation of long-term employment. Right now, we have hired a paralegal, and I want to introduce him to the board at the next board meeting, just under the paralegal job description, which would be the generic job description, which is really an SEIU job description.
So you already have this position filled?
No, we don't have a job description for the paralegal for the county council's office.
So let me explain. There's an incumbent, a temporary incumbent on board. They don't hold a regular position. Our temporary folks do not hold regular allocated positions. In this case, the county currently has a job spec for a paralegal that is generally used in the district attorney's office, and it's very specific to the district attorney, although the duties and the type of work they do are very similar. That is a general unit position which is represented by SEIU. What we need in this case, the temporary position is not represented, but what county council needs to do is have a paralegal position that is of a confidential nature because they deal with labor issues, with discipline issues, with other confidential subjects. So we made a very specific job description for the paralegal in county council, which would be as part of the confidential unit, not to change the current spec in the district attorney's office.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from. I just have 2 concerns. The first one is we're not going to exceed that. Is it 900 or 800 hours?
Yeah, we won't exceed that.
You won't exceed that. And 2, I kind of feel you're kind of circumventing the process of how, 1, we didn't fund the position the first, and then going away from a SEIU position to a temporary classification position. I just wanted you to hear my thoughts about how this is transpiring, but.
Right. We're definitely going to work within the funding that the board gave us. And so we will not exceed the funding that the board gave us. There's just going to be a delay in recruitment for the deputy county council position. So we are going to live within that budget. At some point in the future, if the budget of the county improves, we may come back and ask for that position to be a full-time position. But right now, we recognize the budget limitations that we have, and we are going to live within that. And we just feel that it's more appropriate for it to be a confidential position because they are going to be able to have some confidential information.
Okay.
And also we set the salary, the exact same salary as the SEIU position.
Okay, so if you're bringing in somebody, you already have someone in mind, right?
Yes, and
Okay, did that person go through all the interim process, submit an application, all that good stuff?
They did submit an application, but it's a temporary employee.
Right. Okay, so it's a temporary position. So in the future, when the board does approve a full-time position, most likely this person will slide into this full-time position.
Well,
right?
actually, if I could clarify. No, first of all, we'd have to go. You want me to answer this? Okay. They would have to go through a full recruitment, and the person that we have in this paralegal position right now is an attorney that's waiting for his bar results that will come out in November. I do not expect him to hold a paralegal position in the long term, nor would I want him to.
Right.
So that's just it's a temporary position, and that's what our expectations are.
Okay, I just want to say for the public here today that we're not trying to circumvent the hiring process.
Absolutely not. The other thing I will say is this particular position is unique to county council. Again, our other paralegal exists in the district attorney's office. Were we to need paralegal services elsewhere, I don't know where that might be, those would not be of a confidential nature. These are very unique. I think San Benito County does a pretty good job of minimizing its number of unrepresented positions. And with that said, we did notify SEIU of this item so that to ensure that there were no objections. This is a very unique animal.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. This time, I'll open up to the public for questions or comments from the public. Seeing none, bring back to the board for a decision.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve and adopt new class specifications and salary range for paralegal county counsel with a salary range of $18,490 to $24,780.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, wait a minute, something's wrong here.
Per hour.
Per hour.
18.49.
18.49 to 24.73 per hour. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Now we'll go to item 20. Supervisor Munzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only reason I pulled this is because it was alluded to earlier in our meeting today and also our last meeting that the county is doing nothing to solve the homeless situation. And I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that although we may be moving at the speed of government, which the chief of police said that we need to increase that speed a little bit. I totally agree with him. I do want to make it known that we are doing something. We have purchased a building for our new homeless service center, and that we are moving forward in getting that rehabilitated and up and running. Thank you.
With all deliberate speed.
Yeah, I just want to add to Supervisor Munzer's comments. It's not just the building; it's programs that go along with it. I really think that Jim Riding-Sword is working very hard to develop those programs, and we're coordinating as best we can with other departments as well with the city. It's really important that the community recognizes this. Thanks.
Thanks for those comments. Open up to the public. Questions or comments?
Marty Richmond from Hollister. You know, I hate to put it this way, but this is the way people who are not influential in this county are treated, just like this lady was here. who comes with a specific problem, people in front of her business where she has an investment. Okay, and maybe, I don't know how much money she has, maybe she can't stay in business if people stop coming in the front door because she has a specific problem. And although you're working on the problem, and we all know you're working on the problem, and as Supervisor Munzer said, at the speed of government, she may not be able to last at the speed of government. And if it was your business, if you weren't sitting there, if that was your business, you would not be sitting there saying, well, we're working on it at the speed of government. You know, you'd be saying, get somebody out there and get my problem solved, because otherwise I'm going to be out of business. And you know, there's nothing looks worse when you drive down a street, and happens to be in the city. It's not in the county, so it's city's primary responsibility, and I'm willing to admit it, but they're not here, so I'll pick on you. There's nothing looks worse than come down and see a bunch of empty lots surrounded by chain link fences. And bring your business people down there and say, look at all this opportunity. We're offering you empty lots, overgrown with weeds, surrounded by chain link fences. It's like the ugliest things, like ugly America. It's like, here, why don't we go to a town that's just falling apart? That's what it looks like if you come in the north end of our town, okay? Chain link fences around the thing, and you have somebody who invested in putting a business in there, which is good for everybody, pays taxes, uses the place, keeps it clean, and they have a specific problem. Let's do something about solving her specific problem while we're waiting for the Taj Mahal or whatever we're building over there to be built, okay? Let's get something going. Now, I understand that Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, you can always get somebody on the telephone to do something here. But, you know, the weekends are kind of dead, except for the police, and that's why they wind up with the call, or the sheriff's department. So why don't we have HHS or somebody, or the Coalition for Housing or somebody go out there and try to do something to offer these people a place to stay, or do something that would help her keep her business operating. And I have no investment in that business. I don't know the lady. I'm just saying she has a specific problem. It needs a specific solution. And the grand solution won't do a thing for her if it comes after she's out of business. Thank you for your time.
Okay, any other comments? Any other questions, comments from the public on this issue? Bring it back to the board for decision.
Mr. Chair?
Supervisor Dela Cruz?
Jim, can I put you on the hot spot right now?
You will.
Thank you, Jim.
Yes, sir.
Saturday, 11 o'clock in the morning, I get the call from Ms. Houston. What can we do? I call you on your personal cell phone. What can we do? There are two individuals right next to her property. What can we do?
Well, at the moment, we are probably working with each of those people, through human services and through behavioral health programs. As you know, and we've said this to you before, the real solution to this is a housing first solution. We don't have housing available for low-income people in San Benito County. If we had housing, we could go out and say, we have a place for you to stay, we're going to take you there. If you're homeless, it's a tough life, and you're looked down upon. And people don't understand what it is to be homeless. I met a gentleman who was homeless. I met him in Sacramento a few years ago. He now runs a nonprofit organization in Sacramento. He said to a large audience, you say that people that are homeless have mental health problems, they have substance abuse problems, and I'll tell you this, I did not have mental health problems, and I did not have some substance abuse problems until I became homeless. And then I didn't know how to deal with it. And I had to figure out on my own how to get out of it. There's not a community in this nation that doesn't have this issue. As I've said to you before, Utah as an example, has taken a housing first approach. They have reduced their homeless population by 95%. So there is, in my view, there is no quick solution. You asked this, us in February of 2014 to take the lead on this. I told you at the time this is a very, very difficult problem to deal with, and it has to start with housing, with supportive services wrapped around it. I don't know how to say to you that we can get there tomorrow or Saturday. If you can come up with a way for us to get there, we'll be happy to pursue it.
Thank you, Jim.
Supervisor Botello.
Yeah, it's real frustrating. I know Miss Houston personally. I've known her for years, and I really feel for her problem. I've chased homeless people off of my property. I've chased them off, and I'm not suggesting that she'd do the same. Maybe that's what needs to happen, but they just go someplace else, and we're committed to trying to solve Miss Houston's problem, even though it's in the city, and try to work with our city partners to do so. But if somebody has a bright idea how to solve this problem, I'm all ears. I think everybody on this board is. So, it's easy to come up here and rant and rave about it, but it's a nationwide problem that all of us as a community, our families need to try to address. Thank you. Thank you for your input, Sean.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay, at this time, is there, I'll bring back to the board for decision.
I'll move per staff recommendation.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to the regular agenda. Moving on to item 23. This is out of Human Resources. Ms. Cochran.
Good morning. Here we are again. Let me try to give you a very brief recap, a little bit more information, and I know that you have a lot of people who want to talk to you. Again, San Benito County went into CalPERS in 1993. The rates have fluctuated. Over time, if you average the rates out, they're not significant, but certainly they have gone up. Nothing much has gone down. The difference is the county does not have any control over what those rates may or not be, nor do we have any control over what plans that CalPERS may or may not offer. Over time, in fact, every year they drop a plan, change something, do whatever. I mean, that is their prerogative as CalPERS. They're generally doing that in the interest of costs, customers, for all the right reasons. So we started this effort back well over a year ago to try to take some kind of control of being victims of double-digit rate increases from CalPERS. We did not have the enabling language in our MOUs. The county does have that language now. So we circulated an RFP earlier this spring. We spent most of the winter developing that and circulated that. We had 2 responders. We had Keenan/Pace and Alliant from CSAC EIA. There's some pros and cons of all of these. We gathered our insurance committee together through the course of our MOU. As we reported a couple weeks ago, we did not have a consensus. We met again. We even included a retiree who was an unrepresented retiree, and that didn't bring the group any closer to consensus. One thing we did not do And you will hear that today, as we did not reach out to the individual retirees. There's some complications with that in terms of trying to manage 200 individual ideas without a retirees association, complicated by the fact that SEIU has made it very clear, and rightfully so, that they represent those retirees who were in SEIU classes at the time of their retirement. So it's a smaller segment. So it becomes very, very difficult to manage. In my past lives, where we've had retirees associations, whether they had a formal seat at the table or not, we've at least been able to reach out because we had legal designated representatives. What I've seen from the letters that you've received in the last few days is we don't have a consensus among the retirees either. Again, there's no consensus in the groups. So that said, each of these plans has pros and cons. And in doing this, keep in mind, I know people are very concerned, and so there are some choices before you. Let me go to the agenda item for a minute. The first thing to do is obviously listen to the input and make a determination as to where the county wants to go. The county has some options. They can stay with CalPERS. They can leave CalPERS. If they leave CalPERS, we need to go with either Keenan and their plan or with CSAC EIA. And
hey, Georgia, can I interrupt you really quickly? I want to make it clear for everybody here. I know this is a unique situation because there's only 4 of us here. And so because we are up against the time frame, I believe a decision has to be made by the 15th. So we're confronted with making 2 decisions today. The first is to either make a determination whether or not we're going to exit CalPERS. So if there are 3 members of this board that wish to make that determination, then we'll move on. And then the second choice then is to select a new insurance provider. If there's a 2-2 split, then the motion fails, and then we'll move on.
Correct.
Okay, so I want to make that clear for everybody. If it's 2-2 and it fails, then we'll move on. I imagine we'll probably revisit this next year or in future years.
That is correct. And we've talked with the committee a little bit about if a decision is made to stay with CalPERS or if no decision is reached, which remains the status quo, that doesn't preclude anything you might do in future years. And there's potentially some streamlining to that. But what I do want to say is I've heard there's as much misinformation out there as there is information. Everybody reads things a little bit differently. So I want to say both of these plans, I'm not trying to sway you to work with Keenan or to work with CSAC EIA or to stay with CalPERS. I wish I had a consensus. And we've been through the pros and cons many times. Both of these are established plans. These are not fly-by-night organizations. Neither CSAC EIA, which is the second largest provider of health care insurance in the state, is a fly-by-night outfit, nor is Keenan, who has significant business within the state of California. So, and what we did with this RFP was to have these providers mirror as closely as possible the CalPERS plans, for the reason that we didn't think it was appropriate to try to compare apples to oranges when we're still moving through this process. We'd be working with Anthem Blue Cross, which is a nationally known company, and that's similar to things that we've had at CalPERS. They both include survivor benefits and all of those things. So no option is bad. Not one of these options before you is a bad option. And it's all in where we want to take the county. And I can just very quickly recap. And CalPERS is a known quantity. Their rates have been somewhat stable. It's just the ups and downs. You have to average over the course of the years to see that. The cons are that we have no access to any kind of claims experience from San Benito County So we don't know how healthy or unhealthy we are. We know our last data was from about 1989 or 90. We don't have any control or cap on the rate increases. The rules are rigid. And we have no input on the plan availability or design. With respect to Keenan, they have given us a low first and second year cost. They have a good rate history with their other clients. They have some programs with respect to out-of-state travel to try to reduce costs. There's a little bit of plan flexibility. They're newer to serving counties. They do have clients. They're not new to the public sector. There is that, on the con side, there's that 5-year lockout from CalPERS. While we are part of the pool, we would be part of the pool. There isn't a cap on that pool. Again, this is just pros and cons. With CSAC EIA, they have significant county experience and a long history with smaller counties, similar to San Benito County. They have kind of a modified pool structure where within we have a pool rate that's combined with our own rate with a cap of 7.5% either way. Their rate history with their other clients is very stable as well. They have a unique ability to allow the county to customize plans. And that's to look at your data and your costs and maybe move things around, change some of the plan design to try to reduce costs for everyone. Their first year cost is lower than CalPERS. On the con side, they do have, again, we have that 5-year lockout. If we leave CalPERS, no matter what plan you choose, you have the 5-year lockout. And there are issues with respect to the retiree irrevocable options. Part of that is, it doesn't have to do with someone who loses their group coverage. If you are a retiree without coverage, you're in another group plan, you lose that coverage. Yes, there is ability to move in, but if I just decide to go out on the exchange and get a cheaper rate now while I'm healthy and jump back in when I'm not healthy and jack up the rates for everyone else, no, that is not okay. So that is, on the con side. But again, neither plan is a horrible plan. These are all CalPERS. Basically, we're comparing CalPERS choice plans. They don't have the select options, so there's some benefits to both of those as well. And with that, if you have some questions, I'll answer those. Otherwise, I know there's folks who want to talk to you.
Okay, at this time, are there any questions from members of the board for Georgia? Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Georgia, with CalPERS, for the retirees, can you opt out and then opt back in?
CalPERS rules work just like they do for employees. So if I opt out because I have other insurance.
Right, cheaper insurance.
Cheaper, I can opt out. I can't necessarily opt back in outside of open enrollment unless I have one of the qualifying events. So, for example, just as in the CSAC EIA example that I gave, if I opted out because I had other group coverage, CalPERS doesn't care what reason you opt out for, but I opt out. And I lose my health insurance for one of these qualifying reasons. Generally, I've been involved in a spouse's group coverage plan, and the spouse lost their job, did whatever, I can opt back in outside of open enrollment. Otherwise, every year, folks can make a choice during open enrollment, yes. That may have something to do with the fact that our rates go up and down, although it's a pretty big pool.
And the other ones you can't do that, right?
With Keenan, I understand that is available. CSAC's rules are just a little bit more stringent with respect to trying to keep rates down.
Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. This time, I'll open up to public comment. Mr. Clerk.
Chairman L.C. Marshall. And then Susan Thompson.
Good
Good morning, gentlemen. There are two things we can be sure of in life. One is change, and the other is death. The only thing you got to be careful about is don't let that change lead to your death. Okay? All right. That was rather dramatic. Those of you who know me know it can be a little traumatic. My whole thing with this process has been retirees have been excluded, whether purposely or not, that doesn't matter, but at this point, and I understand there was no formed group, but at the same time, once we were informed, we were on the ball. We got involved. We got a group together, we got people talking to each other and whatnot. So that's my biggest concern. The other thing is I don't think, and George is right, there's been information, misinformation, there's ambiguous information, there's all kinds of things going on. Because what's happened is there's too many cooks in the kitchen. So if we can get a consensus and, get a group of us, of retirees that, do plan to be a group, an actual recognized group, and we continue on, we can maybe come to a better consensus as to if we want to get out of CalPERS or not, and all the information is valid. One of the things, besides so many unanswered questions about taking this move, is for retirees, CalPERS has been the administrator. So from what I understand, now the county will become the administrator. I worked in HR. There was 3 of us there. We were overworked and understaffed that whole time. So now you're looking at possibly having another staff member, needed to be added onto the group just to manage or administrate the plan. So where's the savings there? Billing, how are retirees going to pay? I know that they've talked about a health services account or whatever, and it's just there's so many unanswered questions about how this is going to happen, and I really feel like it's poor planning. And I really think that we should at least wait another year before you pull out of CalPERS. Certainly you can use the retirees. Retirees might have more time to be able to help and look into some of these issues. Personally, I just feel, as representing some of the retirees and meeting with them and talking, I've probably spoken I've been totally overwhelmed with all of this, probably about 60 to 70 retirees in the last 2 weeks, or week and a half. And there's only been one that told me that they wanted to move out of CalPERS out of all those people. So that shows you right there that I don't think it's a good idea at this point. We need more information. We need more knowledge of how this is going to run, how this is going to work, how this is going to affect everybody. Not just retirees, but the active employees as well. Thank you.
Good morning, Board Member Susan Thompson, your retired County Administrative Officer. Thank you for having me today. I found out about this process even though I live locally in this community and am very active in this community. I found out about this process last week on Friday. So to say that there was an open process is really not correct. Not to say that we know that we are not as retirees legally entitled to be part of the negotiation. But we are your retirees. Lots of folks in this group gave you 35 or 40 years of their life. They would like to be part of a public conversation. It's not negotiation, but it certainly would be, I think, help to inform your decisions. Some of the concerns that we have, because we've really gotten involved very, very quickly, met with the CAO, met with County Council. They have been very good and very open with us, but that meeting happened yesterday. So we've looked at the data. Last night at 9:30, I personally received probably 300 pages of documentation that I asked for last week and didn't get. There's no way that we're going to be able to know what's in there. My concern is today, just generally in this conversation, we have not talked about what are the costs. What are your costs? What are employee costs? I know in the documents I was able to scan that EIA proposal did have some caveats saying these are hypothetical and that we'll give you your rates and costs sometime in June. I've never seen those costs. Have you seen those costs? Who's seen them? The proposal from Keenan does have costs in it, and they are low. But there's no guarantee they're going to stay low. There's something called the blue light special. Been through this before, been in the business 32 years. When somebody wants your business, they're going to do that, give you a nice deal, and the next year when they actually find out what your utilization rates are and they do their actuarial studies, you're going to get an increase and it's going to choke you. So my concern is that when we make a decision together like this, that we make it based on facts, it's not emotional. And I can't even be anything but emotional because I don't have any facts. And I would love to be part of a group of retirees who is a conduit for conversation with you, because I know you want to do right by people, not only your current employees, but your retirees. These are people who are your family, people who have been in your community for years, people who need to know that they're not being harmed and that their families are not being harmed. I know you're not intending that to be the outcome, but the concern is we don't have the facts to help you make that decision well, and I would hope that you would strongly consider giving us that opportunity over the next year. Nothing says it has to be done this year, and incidentally, my guess is because you have taken this action, CalPERS is probably a little more paying attention to what your needs are, or will be, because they don't want to lose you either. Now, there's also one last thing. We're a small county. I also have had experience in a very large county, and if you think you're going to get a voice more in some of these entities about it, take another think. Thank you.
Morning. My name is Curtis Hill, and I'm the retired county sheriff. Retired in 2010. I've worked for the county for almost 35 years. My understanding is that the process started on this discussion when you received a 22% increase on from CalPERS last year. That's a shocking number. I could see why everybody had a huge reaction to that. But I'd like to express some caution behind that. I was here in 92, 93 when you went to CalPERS, and the reason that you did is at the time the county was self-insured, and there was two people, a retiree and then an infant son of one of your employees, that literally broke the bank on the insurance coverage for the county. Literally blew it up, and so. That's the reason they went to CalPERS. In my experience with CalPERS, because I started here in 1976, it's excellent. In my opinion, it's the only way to fly. I have a lot of respect for CSAC because I worked with those folks on a very close basis for a number of years in Sacramento. But the issue for me is, and one that I think you need to be concerned with and take note of, is if you leave CalPERS, you're not going to be able to come back for 5 years. That, to me, is troubling, especially if you get some exorbitant rate increases from these other providers in the next 5 years if you choose to leave. Then the other one is the medical claims experience component, which you're not going to get until you pull out. And you don't know what that adjustment's going to be when that occurs, and I would caution you in that regard. I understand that one of the companies is Keenan. Are they a nonprofit or a profit? What's their component? They're a for-profit? So, I would be concerned about that, because you want to see where, what their philosophy is overall, and that just goes to based on just the basis of their organizational structure. Then the other one is, I have it here in my notes, excuse me, I apologize. One of the things that was pointed out yesterday is that our understanding is that you're pretty much 80% funded and moving towards the black and covering some of these OPEB costs. You should be commended for that. And I'd just like to close up by saying that be cautious. I would recommend to your board that you stay the course and stay with CalPERS until you get a better look at it, then you can move from there. Thank you very much.
Karen Rogers.
Good morning. I am here just to reiterate the fact that the last three speakers are the majority voice of all our retirees here. We are uninformed. We have not been notified of this yearly discussion and was never brought to the attention of the retirees. I learned of it just within the last couple of days. I believe that we need to be more involved as retirees as far as this decision and this process and what's out there. I'm also concerned about the legal repercussions about leaving the retirees out of this equation of healthcare changes. Thank you.
Michael Silverman.
All right. For those of you in the audience, I'm Michael Silverman. I'm our union president. And before I begin, I'd like to thank the hard work of our healthcare committee. And we have them here. We have Susie Caston, we have Mark Wyrick, and we got Laura Nakarada. And I want to thank them for all their hard work. This committee started over a year ago when we had negotiations. SEIU took the leadership in response to the 22% increase to get out of CalPERS because our members needed the relief. Our members are overtaxed. The workers that I represent are all doing their best to live within their means. We have been doing this for the last 4 years through layoffs, furloughs, health care increases, frozen step increases, retirement contribution increases, and of course, higher rents. Now, we are all looking for some relief from the rising, unsustainable costs of health care. For a member, covering his or her family for $750 a month, after paying rent, they have very little for food, bills, entertainment, and right now, school supplies. Our members also know that even though they have health care, they can't afford to get sick because they can't afford to pay their portion of their visit. 20% of a $5,000 procedure in the ER is still $1,000. Now this becomes a public health issue because going to the doctor may be delayed due to financial reasons. And when a doctor is needed, an ER visit is most likely because we waited too long to take care of a pre-existing condition. In order for health care to be affordable, you do have to have money to pay your portion of your medical bills. And you can't do that by paying $750 out of pocket just for premiums. Let's end this high cost of premiums. We've taken a leadership role. We've negotiated with the board so the board can have the final say in opting out of CalPERS for a more affordable plan. That plan is Keenan and Associates. The union is in the business of improving the lives of our members. We have done our part. Now it's up to you to do your part and vote yes on opting out of CalPERS and picking Keenan as our health care provider. Thank you.
Laura Nakarado.
Good morning. My name is Laura Nakarado, and I'm a member of the Healthcare Committee. This is a committee that was formed last year during bargaining when CalPERS rates jumped 21% or 22. And in case some of you have forgotten, every bargaining unit except one voted to leave CalPERS. Now that we have the opportunity to leave and offer our employees more affordable rates while not losing any quality of care, some are backpedaling. It has actually been suggested that the solution to this is for us to get a second job. That is the most ridiculous and disdained solution I've ever heard. Although you might be surprised by the number of employees who actually do have second jobs who work for our county. As a matter of fact, I did it myself for 2 years while working full-time and also going to school to finish my bachelor's degree. However, definitely not a solution that I would be proud of wanting to promote for our county employees. I ask you this. If we were with an outside insurance company right now, and you had these 3 companies in front of you to choose from, Keenan, Alliant, and CalPERS, would you choose CalPERS? Between them having the highest rates, their volatile and unpredictable rate increases, topped off with their horrible customer service and unwillingness to work with us, I highly doubt it. I touched last time on employee retention, and I will say it again. It would be very interesting to know the cost to the county we are bearing to train all of these employees just to have them move on to a county that actually values their employees. If you are okay with that and accept the fact that San Benito County is nothing but a training ground and stepping stone, then continue doing what you're doing. But if you want to be able to retain some great employees that have came through here, then it is time to think outside the box and look at the bigger picture. Thank you.
Judy Johnson. Take your time.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for having us here today. Honorable Supervisors, I spoke to you 2 weeks ago with my concerns about leaving CalPERS. Those concerns are still great. I have great respect for the people who have served on the insurance committee, who come in day by day and do the work that we all need done in this county. Highly commendable. But we retirees have great need of a stable health provision. I wrote you all a detailed email yesterday if you have questions regarding anything I wrote to you. And I will say you all respond to me. Maybe it's because I'm old. I don't know, but thank you when you do respond. I'll be happy to answer any questions I possibly can. But for now, I urge you all to please vote to stay with CalPERS. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your diligence. Thank you for being you.
Susie Caston.
Good morning. My name is Susie Caston. I work for the Department of Child Support Services, and I'm a member of the Healthcare Committee representing your SEIU workers. I was also on the bargaining team during the past 2 contract negotiations where the topic of health care has always been a major focus point for us. During the last rounds of negotiations in 2015, the county and the union were in mutual agreement to potentially leave CalPERS and look for other viable health care options. The language in our current MOU states, and I quote, "The county reserves the right to change providers at any time. If the county determines that the CalPERS PEMCA plans do not provide affordable or beneficial options for county employees for any subsequent planned year, the County Board of Supes reserves the right to exit CalPERS and change providers." You have a crucial decision before you today. The option of leaving CalPERS is sitting before you, and we are respectfully requesting from the largest unit of frontline workers with this county to leave CalPERS and move forward to Keenan and Associates. With Keenan, we will all receive the Anthem Blue Cross coverage that we currently have, with the added bonus of the availability of all the doctors and facilities that are only available on the more expensive PERS Choice option with CalPERS. What that means is quality health care with the widest network of Anthem providers. Not only does this option save money and give relief to our workers, it's also a huge budget line savings to the county. We have heard rebuttals on why we shouldn't leave CalPERS, most based on fear, misinformation from uninformed sources, or from county employees in management and other units that make 2 to 3 times as much as your average SEIU worker. The fact is, we can't lose sight of the bigger picture. If this county does not commit to choosing affordable health care when that option is right in front of them, then the board is embracing the idea of remaining a training ground for other counties that are willing to commit to providing affordable health care for their employees. Choosing to stay with CalPERS, or choosing to stay with PERS Health Care is a decision to price out the majority of your workforce from staying with this county. We're talking about the frontline employees who keep this county running, who are the direct providers of county services. When you choose not to invest in a stable quality workforce that serves the community, you are choosing to do harm to the community. The board needs to be thinking in terms of the well-being of the workforce it has and what kind of shape you want to leave this county in for future generations. Thank you for your time.
Kathy Postigo. And as Ms. Postigo comes up, does any other retiree or member of the public have a card? If you could please bring those up because Mr. Scher from Alliant would like to go last.
Hi, Kathy Postigo. I'm with the MEG group, and I also was on the insurance committee also. And as speaking for MEG, that we feel that we would like to stay with PERS at this time. This year for PERS Select, there was no increase in rates between PERS Select and the current one. Although Keenan is less, about $45 a paycheck for 2017, after a year, we feel that the rates will go up to 2018. Why not wait at least for next year and see if there is a large increase again in PERS, and if so, go back to the two proposals and see if they can update their numbers. Yes, the cost of premiums is a problem. The reason why our employees are going away, and it will always be, as far as our cost of premiums going from other counties, they get better, but it's also the cost of pay. So it's kind of the whole gamut of things that needs to be looked at. When I first started here 30 years ago, they paid my 7.5 for PERS and my full for employee only 100%. Now that I'm later, 30 years later, I've lost a lot of those benefits that I did receive previously. That is why I came and stayed. Those are some of the reasons that I did stay, and some of those things need to be looked at actually on the cost of what is paid by the county for insurance. Thank you.
Denise Quintana.
Good morning, supervisors. My name is Denise Quintana. I work for the Department of Child Support Services and have been a dedicated employee of the county for 15 years. I come before you today to remind you that we are at the same place as we were last year, with one difference. You, as the Board of Supervisors, have the ability to offer relief to San Benito County workers and retirees who have stayed with this county through layoffs, reduction in pay, and increased workloads. As a bargaining team member, while negotiating our contract with the county last year, we gave you authorization to help us get more affordable health care. And it looks like, due to the Health Committee, we have found it. All current workers and retirees deserve the best and most affordable health care available. And again, I believe we have found an alternative to CalPERS, which is comparable and more affordable. At the last Board of Supervisors meeting, a retiree spoke and stated that when she got the health care increases last year, she did what she had to do, which is commendable, and get a part-time job. As a board, do you really want your current workforce working 8, sometimes 8+ hours per day, going to get a second job to help pay for health care premiums from their full-time first jobs? It doesn't make sense. You have a current workforce right now that, due to wages they earn, are currently eligible for Medi-Cal. And some of these employees are receiving those benefits. You have the ability today to change this. Thank you for your time.
Betty Mason. Betty Mason. I'm sorry. Yes. I see you very well.
Thank you, Board of Supervisors, for considering our concerns. You've always supported us, and we hope that you will do so in the future. We have some very sad stories that happened during this period of furloughs, layoffs, and higher health costs and higher retirement costs. And mine is that in 1 week, my mom passed away and my husband lost his job. And then the other blow came when I didn't get my G-step. I had to wait another year. So I can tell you that it's really a lot of people with untold stories that have been affected by these high costs. Please take all of these into consideration because we so sorely need your help. Thank you.
Marty Richmond.
Marty Richard from Hollister. I have no horse in this race, and I have no suggestions on what decision you should make. I would like to correct some of my testimony from the last time we discussed this. I believe I said that Anthem had left the Hazel Hawkins provider network, and actually it was Aetna, so I had it backwards. But between Anthem and Aetna, I apologize. I had the wrong one. Apparently Anthem is still in the network. I checked with somebody and I had the wrong one. So I'd like to correct my thing from last time. And I do not have any horse in this race. I don't have any idea who you should pick, but I'm glad people at least have a choice that they're going to make. I, of course, am a government retiree from the United States Army, more than 22 years, and I get publicly paid health care, and it was supposed to be free, and I can assure you it is not free anymore. It was free for many years. It is not free for anymore. Last year, my free health care cost me $10,000. I had choices on where I could get my medications. I no longer have those anymore. There's only one place you can get your medications, and if you don't take it there, then it costs 5 times as much. So the government at all levels has been taking choices away. I know that doesn't make anybody feel any better who's in the audience, but it's basically a fact of life. That's just the way it is. And so even us people with, quote, free medical care, $10,000 is not quite free. I'm glad they have choices. Thank you very much for your time.
Margie Riopel.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. As a county retiree, I'm requesting that you take no action to withdraw from CalPERS. There are a number of reasons why I make this request. To recap, on July 25th, I became aware from a fellow retiree of an action that could affect my health insurance. The action was scheduled for the July 26th meeting, so it was the very next day. On the agenda under Human Resources, G. Cochran, it read, receive a report regarding health care providers for county employees and retirees. Direct staff to return on August 9th, 2016, with a recommendation and appropriate documents as necessary. I reviewed the staff report attached and was concerned that I had not been notified, so I decided to attend the meeting. The staff report summarized what was being considered, what steps the staff had taken, and what recommended actions and decisions that had to be made. To summarize, staff had solicited alternative health providers and received proposals for review by the county. The county used insurance language in the MOUs with bargaining groups describing a health plan committee who would recommend a health provider. As per the MOUs, the health plan committee did not come to consensus over the selection of the health provider, and so it appears that the board has the authority to make a decision to stay or withdraw from CalPERS. Once you receive the rate for 2017, that I understand is 3.2%. If the board makes a decision to withdraw from CalPERS, you have 2 alternate health providers who submitted proposals to choose from.
As you're aware, a group of retirees attended the meeting and objected to withdrawing from CalPERS. The county retirees had not been notified of any changes to the health care, made aware of insurance language in the MOUs with the bargaining groups that affected retirees, or were represented on health plan committee. The retirees made a request to this board to have representation on the health plan committee before any decision was made. The board agreed to allow a representative to attend, and administration agreed to set a meeting for the next week. The retiree was invited to attend the meeting, but before the meeting occurred, SEIU sent a letter to HR barring the retiree from representing SEIU retirees. I remember thinking this was very odd. Why wouldn't they want the SEIU retirees to have a voice? Our retiree representative was allowed to attend on behalf of the other groups, but she was not allowed to share the details of the proposals due to the confidentiality with us. Despite our concern about the decision to withdraw from CalPERS and our desire to have representation, may I continue?
Summarize, please.
The retirees will still have no information. What I would like to summarize is you've received information in your packets today, but as a Board of Supervisors, I would expect that you have received a more detailed, confidential, detailed report from your administration and HR staff outlining the pros and cons of the HELP program and how they would impact the county employees and retirees. I would also respect that you have reviewed the RFP and the proposals submitted and the evaluation process used by Health Plan Committee. To that end, I hope you have been aware of how the proposed health provider benefits will differ or vary from the CalPERS program. I urge you to not withdraw from CalPERS. This decision will affect employees and retirees, and I understand, let me tell you, I understand where these employees are. I think it's horrific that you haven't got a good raise and that you have to pay the exorbitant health costs that you're paying. Something's terribly wrong.
Thank you.
Catherine Shaw.
Catherine Shaw. If you remember, I was your management analyst from 2009 to 2013 dealing with budget, and I haven't spoken to a microphone since then, so excuse me. So from my own personal experience, I know probably better than anybody else what the impact is of health insurance on this county. It's horrendous. I totally get that. And I very much appreciate that the board is trying to come up with a better plan. However, I have some concerns, same concerns of everybody else. SEIU, the retirees. I think there's a lot of misinformation, and I think there's a lot of lacking information. First of all, in reviewing the options that were presented, in light of the current election year, this is a nutso year. So we don't know where the dust is going to settle after the presidential election. So my fear is let's just let the dust settle from that, postpone this decision for a year. I worked with Keenan and Associates many years ago with another employer. Very nice people, lovely to work with. Their costs, we couldn't keep the costs down. Alliant, I have no personal experience with Alliant, so I'm not really sure about them. I have spent some time on their website, and this is from their website. Out of 55 counties, 31 are enrolled in their dental plan, including us. 1 county is enrolled in their vision plan, but more telling is only 8 counties are enrolled in their health plan. One's kind of a semi-large county, and the other ones are small to medium counties. Their areas of expertise seems to be general liabilities and workers' comps and medical malpractice. The fact that there's not a lot of participation in the health plans is a little bit worrisome to me, and so I would like to ask if anybody has vetted these other counties. Has anybody called and said, hey, are you guys happy? Customer service, how do you feel about that? There's nothing better than word of mouth, whether it's positive or negative. Both programs, I'm assuming, are offering attractive rates right now, but what happens after 1 year or 2 years? It's kind of like the DirecTV television commercial. You get those great rates, but then that ugly bill comes along. CalPERS rates are increasing by 3.1%. Yeah, we're going to have to pay more, but that's not a lot this year, compared to other years. I'm now working in the medical field. That's a whole nother ball game. But and so I'm seeing how important firsthand good health insurance and good medical care is. May I continue? I'm almost done.
Summarize.
Okay. It was announced months ago that I think it was Covered California is supposed to have an increase of between 11 and 13%. That could go up. A lot of health providers won't even take you if you're under Covered California. The other question I have, does Keenan and Alliant follow the PEMCA rules? One other thing I would like to say, take exception to the fact that the retirees, it was mentioned at the last meeting that it's difficult to get in touch with retirees. Retirees have to be a letter sent to us yearly about open enrollment, so surely the county has a list of who we are. In closing, again, I would like to thank you for your due diligence in regarding this matter and ask you to please carefully consider the consequences of the timing of this change. I would also ask you to consider the old adage of a penny wise and a pound foolish. I completely understand your desire to save the money. On the other hand, a rash decision will impact the county's future for at least 5 years if no other course is available if you're not happy with the new health insurance program. So I would just ask that you table this for another year, but use this year as a collaborative effort to really look for something that will save the county and the employees money. Thank you.
Mark Wyrick.
Mark Wyrick, organizer with SEIU. I want to talk about the process. As a union, our members vote for the representatives. As a union, we communicate with our members. In last year's contract negotiations, after every bargaining session, we sent out a summary of what occurred, and we scanned and included attachments to every proposal that we passed and that was passed before us. In this process, we were advised several times that we were limited in what information we can share. And we're seeing a lot of that anxiety here today in terms of transparency. We have it where a retiree who was not elected or selected amongst folks was placed on the committee. We had comments from the former CAO who said that she was able to view the documents with the CAO and County Council yesterday. This is a problem when we're inconsistent on our transparency. And I think that's a huge issue, and I wanted to flag that for all of you. I will just close with saying that in terms of what direction you wish to take this county, if you choose to stay in CalPERS, the questions you have to ask yourself is what relief are you going to be able to provide to the workforce that you have and the workforce you will have? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, those are all the speaker cards from retirees or members of the public. We do have one from Keith Brown, who is with Keenan, and another one from Tom Shear, who's with Alliant. So is there any other retiree who has a card or wants to speak? Okay, Mr. Shear, you gave the card first, so if you want to go first, then Mr. Brown, or okay, Mr. Brown.
Good afternoon now. 1 minute over. My name is Keith Brown. I'm Vice President with Keenan and Associates, and thank you so much for your time to the supervisors and everybody who's here with interest in the healthcare discussions. I just want to hit a couple of points because I know I get it. There's a lot of fear out there, fear of the unknown. We work with lots of public agencies, and so there's never a group looking to change plans where there isn't some level of fear. So this is not new to us. But what I wanted to address, the gentleman from the SEIU, he had on a purple shirt. He was concerned about his members not being able to afford coverage. And we came in with a very competitive proposal. It wasn't a blue light special. It was the same proposal that other like entities as you receive. There's no honeymoon rate and huge rate increase next year. You get the same increase that the other folks in the pool get. So there shouldn't be any fear there. What I will tell you, without getting into specific rates, looking at the folks that are in PERS Choice, there's 131 people in there. We're talking about $1,800 savings per year, 11%. So how many 3.2% increases from CalPERS do you have to get to make up to diminish the savings that we're going to bring to you in year one? Looking at PERS Select, there's 70 folks with a limited network. We're taking away the limited network and opening up the entire Anthem Blue Cross network. So you're not limited in providers. Those savings were about $500 per year, and I think the percentage was 3%. And then we had some folks in the POA or PORAC. There were about 50 folks. They had a choice of plans, and the savings for them were between $600 and $1,100 per year, depending upon the plan they choose. And that was about between 3.4 and 5.8% savings from PERS. So I'm not sure. I understand that there's some fear out there. I've heard there's some misinformation, but we are here to make sure that you guys are comfortable with the information that has been presented and you're well educated. We looked at over the last 5 years, we've taken 5 groups out of PERS over the last 5 years, and the average rate increases for this pool has been 3.2% each year, average over the last 5 years. So, have no fear that if you come in, you're not going to get a 20% next year. You're going to get the exact same increase that everybody else gets. In terms of governance, you will have a seat on the board. I assure you, you don't have a seat on the CalPERS board today. You will have a seat on our board. Can I summarize real quick?
You can wrap it up, yeah.
Okay. Lastly, we did not forget about our Medicare friends. We have 3 Medicare Advantage plans here in the county and 46 Medigap plans. The rates range anywhere from $0 to $392, where we are currently paying CalPERS over between $300 and $464. So we are giving our Medicare folks more choice and lower rates as well. And then lastly, I will say that there was a question if we abide by the PIMCA rules. I've read a PIMCA contract, and there are hundreds of rules. If we can be more specific about which PIMCA rules you would like to know if we abide by, happy to answer that for you as well. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, before the speaker leaves, you just kind of triggered a question I want to ask. Last year, we had a 22% increase in CalPERS. What was your increase last year to your group?
5%.
Why is that so? What's the discrepancy? Why did CalPERS have to go up so high, so quick, and you're able to keep your rates lower?
That's a great question. Well, CalPERS, while they are the biggest, while they are this huge animal, remember they regionalize their rate increases. So when you're in an area that they refer to as other Northern California, where they lump you in with the Monterreys of the world and other counties, you are not only rated on your experience, but the utilization in that county for everybody in PERS. Our pool is statewide, so you get the benefit of lower cost areas being part of the same pool. Secondly, we do a better job at managing the risk. We have a better than 100% surgery benefit, which I know doesn't sound real, but if you use one of our surgery centers that we're contracted with, not only do you not pay co-pays, deductibles, co-insurance, but we give you back part of the shared savings. Because when we're able to go out and contract with centers of excellence, surgery centers that have the best results, no return visits, no infections, when we save money by not sending them to some of the high-priced hospitals that don't have good results, we save money, we share that money with the members. So last year we had about 80 surgeries go through our surgery program. We saved about $1 million. And that's not telling folks that they can't go to Hazel Hawkins or they can't go to Community Hospital Monterey Peninsula, but what we tell them is you have options. Here's a top-tier hospital that specializes in hip replacement, knee replacement, because they do so many each year. If you go here, we're going to take care of all your out-of-pocket costs.
Thank you.
We have surgery centers in-state and throughout the nation.
Excuse me, sir.
I'm sorry.
If a member of the board asks a question, you will be able to answer it to the board.
My apologies.
Please refrain yourself from answering questions from public unless the chairperson addresses that member of the public.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my question is, are these surgery centers in-state or out-of-state?
Both. We have a list of surgery centers that we can provide to you in California, in Monterey County, or in any other state you'd like to see. We can give you the entire list.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Dela Cruz?
When you mentioned you have these centers, the preferred centers, is Hazel Hawkins part of the preferred center?
Hazel Hawkins is not. They're more surgery centers as
Right.
opposed to hospitals.
Okay. So you have tier 1, tier 2 type of centers, correct? In terms of reimbursement rates or rate costs?
In our surgery management program, all the surgery centers and hospitals in this program are tier 1 hospital.
They're all tier 1s?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks.
you so much.
Mr. Chair, the last speaker is Tom Scher.
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Shear. I'm from Alliant, and I represent the California State Association of Counties Excess Insurance Authority. I work at the direction of public employees like your staff and have been in literally hundreds of meetings with active employees and retirees over the years. And the trust that we're given by the members of the EIA is to get the biggest bang for the buck that employers are spending for and employees are spending for health insurance. When talking with retirees, we've spent lots of time. There's a lot of vulnerable people in that population. There's folks over 80, over 90, and they have caregivers, and it's important to communicate with everybody to help them understand if there's going to be change. So we get what it takes to work with public employees, and we understand that it's expensive and it's a problem, and a lot of people haven't had raises for a long time. Over 13 years, the EIA pool has shown a rate increase that is lower than the average annual rate increase for CalPERS. It's consistent in that regard, and we've been able to maintain that because we don't buy business. Our rates are not as aggressive as the rates proposed by Keenan. They still demonstrate overall savings to the county. We've been able to grow this program now to it's about 22,000 employees and retirees. There's probably 4,000 retirees in there, Medicare and non-Medicare, and we've come up with a lot of alternatives to maintain benefits for retirees. One of the big fears that folks have is that they're going to get moved to an individual plan with AARP, and it won't be group insurance, and they'll have the donut hole and all the rest of that. We're very familiar with that conversation with retirees and how to address it. The reason that we've had a low average rate of increase is that we don't let everybody into our pool. We get lots of requests every year, and we underwrite them. We let in the folks that we think we can price fairly, and when we come up with a rate, it's a rate that we think is going to lead to a sustainable, modest average rate of increase. Not everybody can get together to leave CalPERS. We've made lots of proposals this year and last, and very few folks actually finally are able to make the decision to leave. We believe that the EIA pool, given the size, the stability of the rate structure, the conservative nature of the rating, The direction by public employees makes it by far the safest alternative. It's very anxiety-provoking to leave CalPERS, and we submit that the EI pool is certainly the safest alternative to CalPERS for the County of San Benito. Thanks.
Yeah, I want to pose the same question to you, sir, as I did the last speaker. We were faced with a 22% increase with CalPERS, and what would have been our increase with CSAC?
CSAC's average, I think, our average for the last 5 years is 6.2%. Different groups in the program get different rate increases. We have a pool rate increase, and you will get a fixed rate for the first year. In 2018, you get the pool rate increase, and in 2019, you get the pool rate increase, and you can get up to 7.5% more or 7.5% less. In different cities, City of Visalia has consistently tracked at less. City of Watsonville, if you want to check references, next door neighbor, or County Merced, they've tracked at less than the pool, so they've done less than the pool average over time. The desire when the program was built was not to follow the CalPERS model. What the employers wanted to do was to have the guys who did better than the average benefit from that, and the folks who did a little worse than the average to have some protection on how much their rates could go up.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, there are no more speaker cards.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public comment period. And I know that we're going to go through this little hour and hopefully make a decision right now. But you know, as one supervisor, I know as a board, we've obviously struggled with this. You know, this is not an easy a decision. You know, it just seems like since I've been a member of this board, it honestly feels like, you know, wages are stagnant or declining every year. That costs keep going up every single year, annually. And I hear all of you loud and clear, from retirees to, you know, current workers having to get a second job, I have 3 jobs. Do I want 3 jobs? Absolutely not. I am dead tired. I have a young family to provide for. I have a 4-month-old. Why do I have 3 jobs? To provide, because I have to live. You know, I have a mortgage to pay. I got bills to pay. You know, and so when you take in, you know, the reason why we're here is because you have to take into the consideration about our triggering event, and that was the huge increase that CalPERS had on our workers and on our retirees. It was, what, a 22% increase? That was the triggering event. It's not for us to save money. If we save money out of this, fantastic, right? That's what we're here to do. But it was because workers came to us and asked us, we need help. We need, you know, we need some relief. And that's why we're here. And so as a board, we've tried to, you know, solve this problem. We're trying to find a solution. And this is a solution we've been working towards for a year and a half. I understand the issues of transparency from retirees. You know, that clearly is an issue. And trust me, we've had some shouting matches with staff over it. You know, so this isn't an easy choice for any of us. Any other questions, comments? And so the way we're going to take this, we'll take some comments, additional questions from staff, by members of the board. And this is going to be a 2-step process. The first step is to make the determination whether we're going to exit CalPERS or not. And if we choose not to exit CalPERS, end of discussion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually have a question for Georgia. So it was alluded to by one of our first speakers that CalPERS administers our retirees, or administers the program for the retirees. And if we change to one of the other providers, then staff will have to do that administration.
Well, yes and no. CalPERS does handle the open enrollment for retirees, although we get that traffic coming through here now. That's consistent with, although the paperwork goes to CalPERS. With respect to the other providers, part of what Alliant or Keenan do is assist with that.
So just dealing with the retirees, if we change and everything is, you know, back to normal type of situation. I know there's going to be an influx in the changeover. You don't foresee a increase in the HR staff to administer the health
I don't
care?
see adding staff. Let me give you some previous experience in terms of post-transition. Post-transition, one of the things that happens now is we get some pretty complex issues and we have very poor customer service from CalPERS. And again, I'm not defending or trying to attack CalPERS. In dealing with a broker, whether that be Keenan, whether that be Alliant, when you come to those things, the customer service level is very different when we have those issues. Somebody calls, they're being denied service, the paperwork isn't straight, whatever. You get some pretty quick answers, which we don't necessarily have now. In fact, we pay a broker to assist us with that.
And I just have one other comment. I think that going forward, however this board ends up voting today, that it would be a good thing to keep the, I'm not sure what, the healthcare committee in place. And I would certainly encourage the non-representative retirees, those that didn't come out of one of the bargaining units, to form a organization and then to vote, point, however you want to do it, you know, a representative to serve on that committee. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Patella?
Yeah, thank you. First, I want to thank everybody that took the time to send us emails and Louis for forwarding them on. And we received countless of emails. I read Ms. Shaw's presentation last night and Margie's as well, and Ms. Johnson. So we're taking this real serious. And I had dozens and dozens of emails from our current employees that are, you know, looking at this and what we're due this afternoon. Personally, I've been worried about health care for quite some time. In fact, I wasn't happy with CalPERS back in 2013 when they raised the rates 15%. We're talking about 40% over the past 3 years, if not 4. And it's just unsustainable for the folks that are working for us right now. We put a cap on our employees, $550. That's what the county pays. So we're talking about savings to you folks. The county has its cap, and this board certainly has to be sensitive to, you know, future increases no matter what direction we go in. And I don't have the confidence in CalPERS that we won't see another 20% increase. One of the emails we received, maybe a couple of them, said, well, let's see how the election year pans out. Well, I'll tell you, Ms. Clinton or Mr. Trump is not going to solve this health care crisis, neither one of them. And I think we have an obligation to move out of CalPERS and go with one of the 2 RFP respondents. And it affects us all. And I'm not taking that decision lightly, but I honestly think that we have a lot of concerns out there. It's almost like driving a car and have a car full of people or your wife, and there's concerns at every curve and corner. So we're driving the car. This board is driving the car, and we'll have to make the best decision we can today.
Okay. And before I get to Supervisor Dela Cruz, I do have one question of staff. If we do opt out and go with either Keenan or the CSAC EIA, talk about these 3 insurance these providers. Yeah, I know that you have already, but the one thing I heard in a lot of emails was coverage and the comparability. I get the comparison that CalPERS is this Cadillac, and these other coverages are, they're not Cadillacs. So can you talk
Actually, I would say a little bit the contrary, because what we asked for was for them to base their proposals off CalPERS. That's why we didn't say, okay, give us your best guess of what we should do, so that we could compare apples to apples. The one advantage is that both Keenan's proposal as well as Alliance proposal with respect to PERS Choice, PERS Select, is PERS Select does not exist anymore. So for the cost, you have PERS Choice. So you now have the doctors. I heard folks speak, I think a couple weeks ago, and previous. I mean, goes back into some of our discussions some time ago, is that they had to change doctors because they had to move to Select because they couldn't afford Choice. So these are choice plans.
The Select was the HMO plan?
No, the PPO.
PPO. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too would like to thank everyone, especially those who send me the emails after emails after emails. Thank you, Louie. I do.
You're very welcome.
I also appreciate some of those members that actually called me and had a couple minutes to talk to me about their concerns, and I see where everyone's coming from. I understand that the rank and file, mostly the SEIU, they look at it as a cost savings. They look at it as an opportunity to relieve the last 4 years of negative take-home pay. And I'm with you guys. I am there. I've done that. I, too, have to take another job just to support my family. I understand our chairperson's concerns and dilemma. I also understand the concept from the retirees, because they have this health insurance, this package that it meets and provides their needs at the current time. And so we as the Board of Supervisors will have to make probably one of the most important decisions that we're probably going to make when it comes to health insurance, and that's going to be today. And so I'm wrestling with, do we go with the retirees, because it looks like it's really the retirees versus the current rank and file. That's the way I'm looking at it. But, that's the way I look at it. Can I have the floor? Thank you. And I understand the concerns. But for me, I look at it as providing a health services to our employees, to our entire county employees, retirees, SEIU, DSA, everyone, Ray, myself. It's what's in our best interest of our community. That's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm going to make a decision on, is what is the best fit for our community. I just don't like when CalPERS sends us these 23% notices to us. I don't like that. And I know they send us a 3.2, Ray, this one. I understand that point, but what's going to happen in the future? And then if you look at the other side of the coin, you look at Keenan and CSEC, we're going to expose our risk to them. And we're going to be limited to we're going to be tied down for 5 years, because CalPERS will no longer take us at least 5 years. And so that risk is going to be out there. So then the true cost, because we can hide it, we can pull it with CalPERS. And with these new private individuals, private insurance, whatever you want to call them, we're not going to be able to hide that risk. It's going to be shown. So I wrestle with those variables too. And when the time comes for me to make a decision, it's going to be a tough one, but I will make it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, I again want to show my appreciation for everyone who's here. I want to show my appreciation for staff. I know this is something, like I said, the triggering event was a year and a half ago, and so after hearing from our local employment force, they basically said, hey, do something. And so our board said, staff, what options do we have? And the options that were presented us were to work with our labor groups, get the MOU language to opt out of CalPERS, which we did. And then these are our options a year and a half later that are before us. I share, in my opinion, I personally think, since we have the agreement from, the language in the MOUs, it's only a matter of time before we opt out of CalPERS, because these rate increases are going to keep going up. And so when I'm looking at this and the proposals, I'm looking for some stability. And I believe this is the stability that I'm leaning towards is the CSAC EIA, because our workers do have some relief. But at the same time, I think the long-term prospect is you have a known quantity, and I think that you have the ability to have some kind of control on those rates and some flexibility working with them, as opposed to with CalPERS. So at this time, are there any other questions or comments from members of the board? Nope. All right. Let's. So obviously, it is per our board report that we make a determination of whether or not to exit CalPERS Health. At this time, I'm certainly open to a recommendation or a decision.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution electing to cease to be subject to the Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act. Except CalPERS. Is that what the motion? That's what it is.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, that's going to be resolution 2016-67.
Okay, if it passes.
If it
Resolution.
Okay. Is there a second?
2016-67.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
But we have two of them. We have two resolutions.
First, you have to adopt the resolution.
There's two resolutions.
Okay. So
There's two
2016-67 and 68, I apologize.
We'll make a motion, amend their motion.
Amendment to for 68
Per
as
staff
well.
recommendation.
Per staff recommendation.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay, so moving on, the second part of the item, if so, to opt out of CalPERS, please select a preferred provider. So at this time, we have been presented with information based on Keenan, Pace, and then the second one, if I could get some help from staff, is the CSAC EIA. And so moving, those are the two, Georgia?
Yes.
So moving on is, I'm certainly open to a recommendation or a decision by members of the board if they have a preferred.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we move with Keen.
Is there a second? Okay, dies for lack of second. Is there a motion for the only other provider, which is CSAC EIA?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion for CSAC EIA.
Okay. Is there a second?
Is there any resolution number?
There is no
Okay.
resolution.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, so there's a
Speed-
motion and a second.
Right. Execute the necessary documents.
Sure. Will the maker of the motion accept that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 3-1. Okay, thank you. We'll break for lunch.